Hi, welcome back to my channel. So glad you're returning. Thanks so much for the support. And if you're new and this is the first video of mine you've seen, my channel is mostly about learning country guitar. But due to COVID-19, I thought I'd start a new series of videos in where I showcase local great guitar players to my area, which is Toronto. So the bad side of COVID-19 is all those places we play are shut down. So we're stuck at home. So the series is going to be called Guitar Players in Isolation. My first guest is Gino Del Sol, an incredible player in the Toronto area, full-time musician, keeps himself busy playing in a host of killer tribute bands, does big theater production shows, and is a first call sideman. Gino, how are you?
Hey, Arie, how you doing? Good.
Good. Hope you're doing well. We're going to keep this thing really positive. We're not going to be talking about
of course.
it, right? So
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. So
exactly. We're just deciding to stay home and practice for several months.
that's right. I don't watch the news at all.
Right. It's 6 full-time practicing. That's what it's about.
Yes.
So let's just start off by getting to know you and what you've been doing. We'll talk about the tribute bands, the cruise ship shows that you've been doing, the theater type shows, and then later in the interview we can back up and discuss how you got into music and how you got into playing guitar.
Well, before this whole thing hit a couple weeks ago, as you mentioned, you got a buddy that's in one of the tribute acts that I do. It's a Journey tribute called Epic Journey. And that's been going for a couple of years, and we obviously tribute the band Journey, and it's 5 of us, and they're all well-versed players, and we're all really familiar with that kind of music. For tomorrow. We try to play the music as close as we can to the recording, and we've had some great shows recently. We did a little 2-week cruise on the Norwegian Getaway NCL cruise ship, which was fantastic. It played a couple sold-out shows in the theater and sold-out shows in the rock club, which is called Sid Norman's Poorhouse there, and that went really well. We had a little show at the Mod Club a couple months back, which was great. Yeah,
I missed that Mod Club show. You guys don't really play much locally. It's always out of province or out of country. A lot of U.S. type of gigs. So I think that was probably your only Toronto gig. I kind of wish I saw it.
It was. I don't think the tribute act thing is really a big thing in Toronto. It seems like Toronto's more geared towards original music, and that's great. That's ultimately where everybody wants to be. For us and the guys, we figured it's a way to, tribute one of our hero acts and maybe make a little money too. And so we've been doing that. So there's that. And then I have this AC/DC tribute to AC/DC Show Canada, which is a lot of fun. I get to run around stage in schoolboy uniform and play my SGs with a wall of Marshalls, and it's always fun. They're one of my first influences ever, so I figured it's a good way to sort of pay tribute to one of my heroes, Angus Young and AC/DC. It's the whole reason why I started to play music, and later on I got into other styles and went to Humber for jazz, which I loved as well, but it's just a way for me to sort of say thank you to Angus and AC/DC for kind of getting me started this whole thing.
Yeah, that AC/DC show, you really get the the whole look and the whole act, it's pretty cool. I've seen quite a few of the videos. I mean, like you get it right down to having walls of Marshalls. You got like two, double high up stacks on each side of the drum riser. So you got to tell me, when you're playing these theaters, are they actually all plugged in, or is it more of a facade? Is it fake? What's the deal?
They're all really powered.
That's crazy.
And we have to load them in every show. We don't have every cabinet live though. We because there's kind of no need to. So if we have the back line here, we usually have 2 stacks like that. And so if you're on stage right, our Steve McPherson plays Malcolm Young. He's got himself on the top, and then he's got I go on the right cabinet. Because as you know, the whole AC/DC thing, Angus just runs around all over the stage. So when I'm running around, I want to be able to hear myself on both sides of the stage wherever I'm at. So, and then if you go to stage left, we've got another set of cabinets, and I'm usually in the top there, and I'll put him in the bottom so that I can hear him, and everybody locks into each other. But we don't really have it super loud. Like, I mean, it's kind of loud.
It's got to be loud.
But we don't crank the amps like ridiculous, because you can't mix a band like that. Any soundman would be throwing things at us if we had the amps cranked. So
why don't we compare that to some of your other gigs? I know when you do, I've seen you do the Epic Journey on the cruise. The stage was completely empty of amps. And I think some of the other stuff you do, you probably, using in-ears or stuff like Axe effects and fractals and stuff like that, and no amp. So, yeah, let's, compare playing with a big wall of Marshalls compared to just going direct.
For the Epic Journey and a lot of the other shows that I'm going to be doing, I bought the Fractal AX8. It's a great unit, and I got it because I was subbing for my friend, and hopefully I will again someday when this whole thing blows over. My good friend Tristan Avakian, who's doing Come From Away downtown. And I got it mainly because he had it, and it was just easy for me to get that unit. And he dumped all the sounds onto mine, and then I could practice at home for the show. And
whole show was in ears, I guess. I'm assuming, right?
For Come From Away, yeah, it's all on in-ears. And
Epic Journey, when you were playing on the cruise.
Epic Journey on the cruise, it was all. I don't have in-ears actually yet, so that's kind of the next thing that I'm going to get into. A couple of the guys in the band. So as you know, the guy that friends with Peter Tong, he's the keyboard player. He does guitar for a couple tunes. He's got in-ears, and the drummer Jeff Salem's got in-ears. So they're all set up like that. The singer Roy Nickel doesn't have in-ears, and Paolo, our bass player. So the front guys, we don't have in-ears. But what we ended up doing on the crib ship was we just put the fractal through the front wedges. So when Roy's singing, there's monitors coming back at him. We put the guitar in there a little bit, and it was great. It was just so easy to do. Just plugs right into the PA, and there's no cabinets on stage.
It's got to be a big difference in feel, though, having the air blowing from all those Marshalls behind you compared to just having them come through the front monitors.
That's different feel for sure.
I was trolling your Facebook prior to us doing this interview.
Okay.
You've also done a Blues Brothers tribute too. Was that or that regularly? Or?
I fill in with them once in a while.
Sort of a thing.
What's that?
More of a sideman situation.
Yeah, they have. They do a lot of shows in the States, and they have a guy that does most of the shows down there. But he can't do some of the Canadian dates, so I've been doing some of those.
You said that felony charge you had, kind of. I'm joking.
I guess I don't know. Some shows with them, and what do I use for that? I usually use my. I have another direct box thing. It's a Boss ME70. So it's like the Fractal. It's a little smaller, and it'll fit in the overhead on a plane. So with a Fractal too, but it's pretty small. and I can just put it in the front of a Fender amp, and it'll sound great. So there's usually backline on those gigs. I just kind of show up and plug into whatever Fender amp they have, and I'm good to go.
So you do a lot of like filling in, subbing in for somebody else, like you've said on some of the other shows that you've done. And there's another show that I've seen that I think you sub in once in a while is for a Billy Joel tribute. I love Billy Joel. I grew up with Billy Joel. So that's really cool. One day I'd like to come out and see that gig. But when you get hired to sub in, and it's 15, 20 songs and new stuff for you to learn to do the show, what kind of goes through your head? What's your plan of attack to learn the material? And do you get to use charts, or do you got to memorize it? Let us know how you plan for these type of things.
So with the Billy Joel thing, it's with an old friend of mine, Jeff Brewer, and I've been sort of doing that for maybe about 10 years. And there's another fellow that does that, a lot of the U.S. gigs with him. Maybe 15 to 20 songs per show. It depends on the song. Some of them are a lot easier. Some of them are quite involved. And it's music like Billy Joel. It's got a lot more chords in it. It's a lot more complex than obviously AC/DC or even a Journey song. So there's a lot more sort of time involved with learning the song, learning the chords, learning all the different voicings or whatever, or particular parts. For a tribute show like that, or for any other, a tribute show means that people want to hear the music exactly like the record.
So for some of the tribute stuff that you do, where it's not a band like like AC/DC or Journey, so you're a member of the band, like the Billy Joel thing, or the Blues Brothers act that you've also subbed in on. So you're not the main part of the show. In those kind of shows, are you able to do you use an iPad, or do you use sheet music? So you don't have to have the whole thing memorized cold.
No, definitely. When we're sort of more in the background like that, I can use my charts and stuff like that. I'm not entirely up to speed on the whole tech thing. I tend to use just basically old handwritten charts that I kind of do myself a lot. So working on this Queen thing just for my own thing. I want to maybe do a chord melody or something like that. I just kind of handwrite my own charts. I don't know, maybe about an hour per tune, per chart. And I usually make it so that it's really clear, because if it happened recently, I got called to do a gig and I couldn't do it. I had conflict with one of the other bands, so I made all the charts really clear and wrote down as many notes. So I called a buddy of mine to do the gig, and they did the sound check and everything, and the gig was called off due to the whole thing that we're not going to talk about.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, I heard about that thing. So I try to make the charts really clear so that as my buddy Tristan says, like monkey proof, so everything's there. Use this sound, go to this pickup, acoustic guitar, or whatever.
So with old-fashioned sheet music, I guess you got to come prepared with lighting. It gets pretty dark on stage. Is it sometimes tricky the way things get shined on to see it off of sheet music rather than using the iPad?
No, you just got to make sure you bring a stand light. And when I do my charts, I use 4B pencil.
There you go.
Don't use 2H or 2B, or 2B is good. 4B is even better. Yeah, no HB or no 2H. It's gotta be really dark, because if the light hits it, sometimes if it's not dark enough, you'll be like, oh boy, I can't see anything. So
So you mentioned earlier that you were you know, in the musical Come From Away, and you do a lot of theater type of work. And the really cool one that you did was Rock of Ages, and that, you know, you're not in an orchestra pit, and you're not far at the back of the stage. You're on the stage the whole time, and you're interacting with the other actors. What was that show like? It was such a high energy, cool show.
It's great. Rock of Ages is a lot of fun because we get to rock out. You know, we wear makeup and wigs, and we're all decked out like an '80s band, and it's like we're on stage at the back of the club and providing the music for everything that's going on. And originally, I subbed in for my friend Tristan again at the show in Toronto. I was lucky enough to get in as a sub on that. And we've become good friends, and you know, he keeps hiring me, so I'm grateful for that. But it's a lot of fun, you know. And because I did the show in Toronto, I got a call to do the gig on the ship, and I did six contracts of that show for 6 months at a time on the Norwegian Breakaway. So,
wow! So you're on the ship for 6 months.
6 months. The last time I was there for 8 months. So.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're to keep this whole interview extremely positive in these strange times that we're living in. But with regards to cruises, they've been in the media a lot because a lot of these cruise ships that have been out, and you know, people be getting sick on the ships, they haven't been able to port, and they've just been out there. You got some close friends and colleagues and bandmates that are still stuck out there at sea.
Yes, my good friend Steve Such from. Indiana was there last time, and I talked to him a few weeks ago, and yeah, they everybody got sent home, and you know, it's just a whole thing.
Oh, okay, but he's not like stuck out or waiting to port, and nobody's allowing him on shore. That's good.
No, he's home. He's been home for a couple of weeks, thank God, and enjoying life again.
So 6 months on a ship, I mean, what's that like? Is it like fun and exciting the whole time, or do you just kind of hit the wall at some point and you want off? So how does that work?
There's definitely an arc to the whole emotional experience of being on a ship for 6 or 8 months. It's a novelty after a while. You sort of settle in and realize, okay, you know, I got to find something to do creatively with my time. So, you know, I was at the gym a lot. We all went to the gym a lot, just tried to stay really healthy. And, you know, you part of your day is doing the show. So when you have a show day, you wake up and do like a tech run. You'll run through the show because they have to, on the ship, they have to set up a set. We do 2 shows. We do another show called Burn the Floor. It's like a dance show. So that sets up. And then, you know, it might do shows on Monday, 2 shows on Monday, and they have to tear the whole set down. Wow. And then the techs work like through the night, and then they put the new setup like that, and then the next day you're doing the different show, Rock of Ages. So you'll have to run through the whole show and make sure all the lighting works, all the sound cues, all the props are in place, and it's a big production.
How big are the theaters on the ship? How many?
The one that we did Rock of Ages on was a ship called the Norwegian Breakaway, and the theater in there is 800 seats. So wow. It's pretty big. Yeah.
It's like full every night.
It's pretty packed every night, except when we're in the Baltic. The European crowds didn't like the show. So.
No? A little offensive or something? I don't know.
It's American. It's offensive. There's sex and drugs, humor, and the Europeans didn't like it that much.
I guess it was a little bit of a case of lost in translation, eh?
I know, right? So,
so that brings up an interesting story. One of the guitar that you use like almost all the time, really old kind of looking guitar and super heavy. You let me try it once, and I couldn't believe how heavy it was. But I don't know if it was that show, Rock of Ages, on that trip or another trip, but you literally broke the headstock off on it, and you had one of the ship carpenters put it back together for you. Yeah, tell us about that one. That was a good story.
Once I get it untangled from all these cables and everything. Okay, so this is it here. This is my old Kramer.
Oh,
it's it's the Kramer. Yeah. So I got this in 1985 at Manny's Music Store. Yes, I'm that old. It's seen the war. Anyway, the thing you're talking about is right here on the headstock. You can see that I went to jump back on the stage at the end of the first act, and I sort of jumped up, and my feet didn't quite jump up as well. So there's a nice crack here, and it literally was
Crazy.
hanging off the thing, and it was just literally hanging by one string.
But you had another guitar with you on the gig.
Yeah,
right?
there's a spare there that I used for sure.
Tell us about the carpenter who fixed it. I mean, there's no 12th fret on the ship.
Oh, there's no guitar luthier on the boat, and it's not a particularly hard thing. I just went to him. I said, "Listen, I mean, can I buy you like a case of beer or something? I need my guitar fixed or whatever." And he's like, "It's just like a clamp-on thing. It just he glued it, and it was fixed in a week." So I bought him some beers, and it was all good.
So in that show, Come From Away, you're on the stage a lot too, interacting with the actors, aren't you?
Yeah, we're sort of we're along the back of the theater, or so on the stage.
Right.
So if you're looking at all the actors up front, downstage, and everything, the band is like actually behind everybody in a straight line. So if you go to stage right, the MD, either Bob Foster or Richard Evans or Jason Jestat, they play the keyboards and they're on stage right. And then the bass player, which is usually John Maharaj, is behind him, and the drummer's in a small room in the back there as well. He was closer to the stage before at the Elgin Theatre, but now they're back at the Royal Alex. Well, they were back. And then the fiddle and the flutes and the second guitar, which is Kim Radcliffe, great player as well. It's all on stage left. So, and guitar one is to very stage left. So until we get to the point where the band comes out and mingles with the actors and everything, you don't really see us.
I haven't seen the show, but I've just seen some clips of it where it looks like the band is in with the actors on.
Yes.
So maybe that's one or two scenes I'm taking it.
There's a couple scenes where they call it the screech-in. It's where they have the big party and everybody, partakes.
So you play acoustic on that gig quite a bit. What are you playing?
Yeah, it's half acoustic and half electric. I have it set up here kind of like the show.
Right.
So there's a rack of guitars here. So, there's a couple acoustics and then a couple of electrics. So there's an on-stage electric where that happens at the end of the show, and that's on a wireless. And then there's the main electric that plays all the electric parts. There's a nylon string that's specific to a couple tunes in the show. Then there's a drop D acoustic, and then there's the regular acoustic for a lot of the other stuff. And now they've also got another guitar just to the right here for the on-stage acoustic stuff, because that's wireless. And so there's actually 6 guitars in total on that show. And there's so much switching back and forth. It's really hectic. For 2 hours, it's just intense. Like
That show's got to be all committed to memory, all your parts, right?
no, it's all charted out, and Tristan did a wonderful job of putting notes in the book, and like he made it, like he said, like monkey proof. So he's got for the fractal, he's got the exact patch number, switch here, do this patch, and there's things that he uses called scenes. So within a patch, you can go to different thing that turns on different effects and everything, and with the pedals and all sorts of stuff. It's quite involved.
I think you also did the musical Grease, right? You did that quite recently.
Yeah, that was last summer. That was last summer with Drayton Entertainment. I do some shows with them, and I'm slated to do Rock of Ages with them this summer.
Okay.
So,
Well, fingers crossed.
hopefully everything goes okay with that. So, but Grease was fun. Yeah, for that I just used a Telecaster.
Oh, well.
Good old Telly, and
I don't think I've ever seen you play a telly. Very cool.
yeah. If you hang on, I can grab it for you. If you give me just a minute. Yeah.
All right, so you got a Telecaster. Very
Yeah.
cool. Oh,
This
that
is-
looks cool. I like it.
It's like a road worn kind of thing.
Oh, is that what it is? A Fender Road Worn?
Yeah. So it's like a 70s. It's got a real sort of vintage style. 70s kind of. It's a really sort of small radius.
Right.
It's
7.5.
something like that. You know, I think I want to change the color on this. I think I'm going to paint it.
Really?
Yeah, I want to do the gold and the black pickguard thing, like the Albert Lee thing, man.
Oh, is that?
So that's going to be your isolation guitar project, right? Refinish that and stand outside Home Depot for curbside pickup.
I think so. Yeah, it's a project to do while we're exactly. Yeah, I mean it's a cool finish, but yeah, it's just I've always liked that gold color with the black pickguard. To you know, I've seen Albert Lee like you. Yeah, I think you've got about 2 of them, right? So
I got the sparkle one.
that's pretty hip, man.
Yeah.
That's
That was a local guy who made that for me.
that's awesome.
Yeah, Eric Hansen. Yeah. He's just like north of Aurora.
So since we're talking guitars, you recently posted a total customized one-off, one and only Gino guitar. Tell us about it. So
when we were on the ship in December, me and the guys were walking around New Orleans on the Sunday because we're like, wait, get some time off. Let's go check out New Orleans. So we're walking around, and this fellow comes up to us on the street. He's like, hey, man, are you guys the Journey band from the ship? We're like, yeah. He's like, I saw you play last night. You guys are great. Oh, thanks, whatever. And he's like, I build guitars. I'm like, really? Okay. He's like, you should check out my stuff. And I saw his stuff. His name is Phil Orasek. So he's got a little shop in California, Sacramento, California.
Oh, so he was just on the cruise for vacation.
Yeah, he was on vacation. So I got him to make this guitar for me, and it's awesome.
Cool.
It's this is it here. So
pretty cool finish.
Yeah, this is his logo here. I've got a banana headstock.
Yeah.
And it's just a gorgeous neck. It's a roasted maple neck, and the fingerboard is incredible. I've got to tune down a half step right now because I was doing some Van Halen type.
Yeah, sure. That bridge is really unique. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that.
So it's a company called Sophia. It's the model number is like 2.92. It's basically based off of Floyd Rose. It's like a Floyd Rose floating system.
Right.
So it's got a lot of travel.
Yeah.
The cool thing about it is the travel with the fine tunings is almost infinite. So there's a lot of travel.
Okay, gotcha.
You don't need to unlock it quite as much because if it's out of tune slightly, you can leave it locked for a long time.
Yeah,
the other cool thing on the back is it's got this pinwheel here, so you can instantly change the pitch of the whole thing without having to rejig the claws in the back there. So usually if you're down a half step or whatever, or your guitar starts going out of tune, you have to mess with those claws at the back to move the whole bridge if it's floating.
Great attention on the springs.
Yeah, so it's really great. It's super light. It's only like 6 pounds. So.
Well, your other one is super heavy. So.
The other one's super heavy. It's like 12 or 13 pounds. I mean, I love it. It's a great guitar. But on those days on the ship where we're doing a tech run and 2 shows, by the end of the second show, I'm feeling it.
So you mentioned earlier you went to Humber. So why don't we lead up to that? Let's go way back. Growing up as a kid, what got you into music? Was it family? Did you have an older brother that played guitar? What got you into guitar? Let's hear how you got into this mess.
Well, my dad had an accordion that he brought over from Italy, and he played accordion. Yeah.
What was that? It used to go with the accordion.
I don't know that. Who's that?
Forget it. I'll know. It was one of those sitcom shows, but they always had this guy who played the accordion.
Oh, the women. Oh, the women. Yeah,
So your dad played the
so he had an accordion, and he tried to get my brother into playing an accordion, and my brother hated it. So because the teacher used to slap his hands and stuff, and So he rebelled and got a guitar. It was this cheap old acoustic thing. I can't remember the name of it. It wasn't even a Kent. It wasn't even that good. But the strings were this high off the fretboard. It was impossible to play. And then he bought a Les Paul copy of this guitar. It was called a Northern. I think he still got it. It's a great guitar, actually. And we're like, wow, you know. And I started kind of goofing around with it just for fun. I didn't know anything. Anyway, he got a job in northern Saskatchewan as a geologist, and then he was away. So while he was away, I'd be playing the thing all the time, and I actually got somewhat decent, you know. And that was because of around the time AC/DC Back in Black had just come out, so everybody was listening to that. I'm from Sudbury, so everybody in Sudbury was listening to that record, you know, driving down the street at all the parties that were happening. So I figured I'd learn a few of the songs, and then I ended up learning a whole record. And then I started learning a bunch of other records, the Journey Escape record, Foreigner 4, and then Def Leppard, Pyromania. I'm really dating myself here. If you were a guitar player, 80s rock was like how you got started playing, you know. So
being from Sudbury, I'm kind of guessing, you know, most everybody you knew worked the mines. I guess back then it would have been like Falconbridge and Inco, right?
Pretty much my whole family. I was the only one in the family that didn't do any of that kind of thing. And
your dad worked in mining?
He worked for Inco, but he didn't work in the mines. He worked for one of the processing buildings, you know.
Yeah.
And even the drummer in my first band, Victim in Sudbury, he was an engineer that did some stuff for Inco as well. And we ended up going on the road, and he stayed home, you know, and he still works there, I guess. So yeah, you know, I went on the road. That would have been like 85 or whatever for a couple of years with that band, and then I moved to Toronto in about 88.
Okay.
And I was in a band for a little while, then I had a bad car accident. I was kind of out of commission for about a year. That was like 88 or 89.
You were on the road in 85?
Yeah. Back then, you
pretty young.
I was young, yeah. I was like 18 or 19. I'm really dating myself. But anyway, back then you would play like 5-6 nights a week. You'd play every night, and you'd take Sunday off to drive to the next place. And, you know, the money was shit. But
you were having a good time.
We were all having a good time and exploring the world of Northern Ontario.
So you must have done the whole Timmins, Kirkland Lake into Rouyn-Noranda. Boy, you were living it up.
Yeah, we did a little bit of Quebec too, for sure. Yeah,
Timmins and
all that stuff. Yeah, all of that stuff. So yeah, I moved to Toronto in '88, and then. Got in a couple bands then, and then
I guess you went to Humber, I guess, around that time.
Yeah, Humber. I went to Humber around 94. Around 91, I was in a band called Scarlet Shanghai Clan. We were half original, half covers, and we went to the States and, you know, played down there for maybe about a half a year. I got really tired. I kind of got sick and had to come home.
So when you were in that band Scarlet, you know, doing originals in the States and stuff like that, did it get close? Was there a moment where, you know, you thought something was going to click for that band?
They did. I was just actually talking to the drummer earlier today. They were really close to getting a record deal, I guess in around 95 or 96, after I had left or whatever. But you know, I mean, the recording industry is just, it's kind of like the lottery, you know? You have to be in the right place at the right time and all that stuff. So yeah, in 94, 95, I'm at Humber College and learning about jazz, and I'm just loving it, you know? I kind of stopped playing rock for a few years, because in order to learn that jazz thing, you gotta dive in like 100%. You know, I didn't really play rock for 2 or 3 years, and I was kind of like, oh, I can't listen to that stuff. You know, that's not what I do anymore.
You gotta go in 100%.
You have to go in 100%. So I did that, and I loved it. It was great. I actually got somewhat good at it for a while, and even had a little jazz trio they used to play the Loblaws and stuff when they had live music at the Loblaws, and which was great, you know.
That's where you met my friend Peter Tom. I think,
That's right. At Humber College, we were in arranging and a couple classes together, and you know, we've been friends ever since. So a couple years ago, he ended up talking to him about getting him in the Journey band, and you know, we ended up we've been back together sort of in that band ever since, and we're trying to do a couple of other things too that are like a Jeff Beck sort of thing, which may or may never get off the ground. But
yeah, I saw a clip. Peter posted something on his Facebook of one of the tunes you recorded for Jeff Beck. I don't know, it was either Wired or Blow by Blow. But yeah, Peter he just nails that stuff. I think it was Jan Hammer. I think was the keyboard player, and he just got those old '70s tones. It was incredible. I really hope you guys can bring that out and do some shows with that. That would be just amazing to see.
He's got a good ear for that kind of thing. It's just attention to detail is great.
So Gino, you're a full-time musician in the Toronto area. You know, you're making a living, you're paying your bills, you know, outside of this whole mess. But you know, you're taking care of yourself, playing music, and so I think you've demonstrated through this interview, you know, how many things you got to be going on at the same time. You know, the tributes, the theater stuff, subbing in. So you know, curious, like how many shows, you know, in the peak when you're busy outside of the cruise stuff, how many shows a month are you doing?
At the moment, like none, obviously, but I mean, probably about maybe, I don't know, two or three a week at least. So you know, what does that work out to? Like, I can't even do the math right now. You know, maybe eight to 10 shows a month. You know, so between, you know, 1 week I might have 3 or 4 a couple away shows.
Obviously, summer, if you're going away on a cruise, you're working constantly.
Yeah, well, you know, in that case, we were away for 2 weeks, so that was, I think we did 5 shows a week on that. But, you know, so some weeks I'll have a couple of the AC/DC gigs, and some weeks I'll have a couple of the Journey things, and then I might be filling in for another friend's cover band or whatever. So
Gino, it's possible that you know, some younger musicians are watching this video and have stuck it through to this point. What would you recommend to somebody in their, let's say, their early 20s who wants to make music their full-time occupation? What advice could you give them?
it's the thing is, so if you're like a freelance guy like me, you gotta hustle. You gotta be on the phone all the time, organizing gigs, sending emails, sending videos, promo videos. You know, here's me playing this kind of music. Check this out. You gotta be in about 4 or 5 different bands. In my case, I do some theater stuff too. So when I get a full-time contract with that, that keeps me busy doing that, and then I have to find subs for my other bands. You know, so you're always juggling something at some point. You know, it's funny when people say, like, so what do you do during the day? Well, I'm like making phone calls, sending emails, sending videos, learning tunes, you know, writing charts. I mean, you know, buying the gear, like, and you yourself, you have, I'm looking back at you, you got like at least 6 guitars behind you. I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guitars here that I have to keep up and change strings and make sure the pickups and the jacks are working, and 3 amps that, you know, like that's a lot of work. Pedals that, you know, sometimes you need different pedals for certain things, and this pedal's broken, you got to get it fixed, and the fractal and the thing, and, you know.
So Gino, do you set aside a certain portion of every single day for practicing? Do you have a regimen that you strictly religiously follow for practicing? So because you play so many different styles, how do you keep that all at you know, top-notch playing?
In the last year or so, I found being at my age, it's important to keep in shape too. So I'll usually wake up and have a coffee, and I'll get on the computer and check any urgent emails that need to be sent in terms of like gigs or arrangements for, you know, work or whatever. I'll try to do that first thing in the morning, and then I'll hit the gym, 10 in the morning, and just work out for an hour. It's important to be healthy. Life's all about balance. You got to stay healthy, and
Be bad now listening to this. Okay.
So I try to make that a part of my day, and I'll come home and have lunch, and then in the early afternoon I'll take care of more business stuff. I'll do some financial things and send some more emails or whatever, and do all that kind of stuff. Later on in the afternoon, if I have to learn new material or write out tunes, I'll use that time to practice or self-practice time for, like, hey, I want to work on that jazz tune, or I want to work on my time feel on this particular sort of tempo or this kind of style, or hey, I haven't played my nylon string today or for a couple weeks, I want to work on nylon chops, just to stay diverse. And then, like, after dinner from 7 or 9 o'clock at night, I'll actually just try to use that time every day is in terms of, like, that's showtime. If I'm doing any sort of shows, which either come from away or Rock of Ages or Greece or even the tribute stuff, they generally are at 8 o'clock or 7:30 until 10 o'clock at night. So I try to just keep that part of the day for that's showtime, So whether I have a rehearsal or a show, it's like that's the time when that has to happen.
So thanks so much, Gino, for being my first guest on Guitar Players in Isolation. This is great. I hope we can get some more great players in the Toronto area to join me. We can feature you and let people know a little bit more about you. So, Gino, I'm going to ask you to play a cool lick for us and just give us a quick lesson on it. And once again, really want to thank you for doing this. Thanks so much, man.
Hey, Arie, how you doing? Okay, here's the lick of the day. This is like, anyway, just play it. Okay, so it's based on A7, and it's outlining a C sharp minor 7 arpeggio. And the notes in that are C sharp, E, G, and a B. So, gives you like an A9 kind of sound. It's this chord right here, which is another way to do A7. A7 is A, C sharp, E, G. Anyway, if you do the C sharp minor 7 arpeggio over top of that, you get a cool sound that gives you this A9 sound. Anyway, so the lick is so it's just outlining the arpeggio, really. Then up on the A7. So the last part of it is just down the scale. A, B, G, F sharp, E, then we do a C natural, C sharp to the A, and it gives us our bluesy chromatic thing. So it works over any dominant chord. Silver blues, you play that over the A7. If you wanted to do it on the 4 chord, which is the D, D9, you can do this, move the same thing up. Or on the E chord. There you go.
All right, thanks. That's our first interview on Guitar Players in Isolation with Gino Del Sol. That was fun, and hope to have another one out for you within a week. I think it would be an exciting thing to do. If you like what you've seen, like I said, most of my other videos are guitar lessons for country. If that's your thing, please subscribe, and even subscribe for the next little while while I keep this interview series going. Who knows? Maybe this channel will dwarf into a guitar player interview type of thing. It wouldn't be the only one. Anyway, take care, and we'll see you in a week. Take care. Bye.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.